The Bragg House, NASDAQ symbol TV, announces its merger with.
Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Friday, December 12th. Friday. Thank God it's Friday. And we are looking at the market, which is had a crazy pop very late, right before they closed yesterday. Both the ES and NASDAQ popped like crazy. You can see those little P and Q tail on the distribution. And then, of course, we had uh, then we had a gap down at the open. They reversed that thing when the market reopened, and since we kind of been holding on to the gains, but we've been in a pretty interesting spot right now. So we had a lot of volatility this week. We were all down yesterday. We were right back up here, and then we had a little pop closing out today. This little pop to the upside. We gapped right back down below the 6900s, and now we're right there holding that level again. So we're back down to 6,900, trading just around that edge. And I would say that we have a pretty good shot at making something out of this, maybe taking this higher. It's going to be a little bit of a crapshoot, I think. The market is probably going to see at least one little sell-off, I think. And they're going to try to scare us, but we have a shot at potentially taking this higher finally. You're breaking out of this range. We'll see. News this morning is non-existing. This has a bunch of speakers, and that's it. So no news to drive the market. So I think it's going to be as a follow-through from the Fed meeting. Fed announcement yesterday was a lot of Fed announcement selling and buying. A crazy overnight on the downside, a complete reversal to the upside during the day session, and that last pop to the upside. And we are trading right above the 68.80. And I would say the trade below that 68.80, we are back on the range bound again. I would start from the long side as long as we hold above it. So initially looking to buy against the 68 or 6900s and the 68.80, 80 to 85s, rotations up. And on these two levels, below that, I would take off the long bias and go back range bound. Still looking to buy against 68.70, 60s, 40s, 30s, down to the 20s here if the market start running lower. But as you said, if they start running this lower again, doing that crazy sell-off morning, mid-morning, whatever is going to happen, you'll see it when it happens. They start running this lower, and it could be a pretty good run at that. And if that doesn't happen, I think the market is definitely taking a step higher. But as we've been seeing, most of the days here has been exactly that. They start off and then they have at least one time during the day when they run it lower. We'll be watching for it. However, starting off this day, we'll start on the long side, or at least leaning towards the long side. Looking to buy 6,900, 68, 85 to or 80 to 85s. Rotations back up again. And below that level, which is pretty much that attractor from before, I think we are back in this lower range again, and then go back range bound. And as such, it could just trade back down in the range and not do much. It could run it lower, but you see, we have a little bit of range here. There could be something in between here. There's a mode here from before. Worth pointing out, this is a mode from a few days back. But it's kind of been traded passive back and forth a few times across that level. So that's why I don't have it as a level anymore. But you can see as we start running in the mode of yesterday here, 68.70 could be an attractor point. That tweeted a ledge here on the way down, 55s to 60s could be a support area. But this range on the downside here, so they could take it running quite a bit lower if they cross this range. So they've been willing to do it, and we'll see if it's going to happen again. On the way up, looking for short setups against the 69.10 and 69.15s. About the 15s, I think we are on our way. So I'm not going to be super aggressive on those shorts. If a nice setup develops, maybe hop on a trade there. But I've been mostly scalping it. They've not been going for bigger moves like getting short and at the edge and trying to run it back down. It's been too volatile for that. So it's you get a good chunk of profit in that thing, and unless you try to take it fairly aggressively, you just give it back again. So that's been the downside of it. But getting in a little bit more aggressively, getting a smaller chunk at a time, it usually works pretty good. You run up your commission rates a little bit, but it's if you end up in a decent positive number, that's fine. And who knows? Sometimes you also run into a nice run from the get-go, and then you can be one and done kind of a day, you know. So that's how we get started. Slight bias to the upside. Let's see if they can take out the highs and keep this going. If not, if they go back below that 68, 80, 85 to 80, or I mean, I was going to say 85s, then yeah, just back in range bound. And for some reason, if they start taking out these lows, then yeah, well, that's going to be a Friday sell-off. It's going to be a big risk-off Friday at that point. We will see that. That's going to be if they start running this lower, I would intraday here in the morning, in that early weakness, try to get on a short trade and try to stick with it for a bit. On the Nasdaq, we are in a similar spot. Capital flow on the Nasdaq. But Nasdaq is not holding as well as the ES. I mean, you can see we're in a similar spot, but Nasdaq backed off a little bit in the overnight, and we are back in that range again. So I'm going to start off range bound on the Nasdaq and see how far where they're going to go from here. But the ES has a shot at taking us higher, and if so, then they could certainly drag the Nasdaq with it. So, but you can see Nasdaq was down testing a lower edge, was testing an upper edge yesterday. It was all over the place. So today could go either way. Either way. We may see tests of both sides of that market today as well. So I would just start off range bound and then see what's going to go. If they start taking out this session lows here at the 530s, I would look for a potential short early on there and see if they can run it down here. Still looking to buy against that level though. So 530s, 470s, 430s, 380s. Looking to buy against those levels on the way down. But it could be a nice short trade if they earlier on start taking out that session low and start moving it lower. Same on the way up here, start taking out that session high, start moving it higher. Could be a nice move to the upside. I would probably hold off until they take out the 730 before looking for any long trades on the way up, or any big long trades. But since that has been a pretty good resistance area. So starting off range bound, looking to sell strength against the 630s, 680s up to the 730s. Above 730, start leaning towards the long side a bit and try to shift our bias towards the long side. Still looking to sell against the 790 and the 870s. There could still be short setups against that one if that's going to run out to the outer edges, you know. But I would not be super aggressive. Try to go with type of trading in a big way at least until they get past that 730. And then below that 530, I would look for more short setups or maybe for short go with trades on the downside. But then it's just the way I'm trading it right now. It's I may take long trades or short trades intermediate here. Depends on what happens intra-bar, if you wish. So, but in the bigger picture, if you're looking for a trade to which, if they start taking out that session lows, I'm looking for moves all the way down to these lower edges. They start taking out the session high, and I would include the 730s in that. And so take out that 730, I would look for moves to the upside. So inside this one, I would be flat out range bound. So you have between 530 and the 730 would be pretty much flat out range bound trading, no particular bias. All right, so that's how we attack the Nasdaq. So Nasdaq a little bit weaker. The ES is a little bit stronger. Let's see if ES is going to be able to drag the Nasdaq higher, or if the Nasdaq is going to drag the ES with it. The downside. We'll see. The Nasdaq, a lot of risk you're taking on the Nasdaq. I mean, there's a lot of AI stocks getting all swirled around right now. Bond market to the downside in overnight. Look at this. Big move to the downside and making new lows, taking out that 27 print. So we had that was a low since a few days back, the 27s. I took that out now. And so we are staying on the short side on the bonds. The overnight, yesterday we had a nice move to the upside, and right now we are looking at pretty solid weakness to get started. It's even so, looking to get short against strength, so 1505 against 1510 up to that 1516s. Looking for short to get against these levels. And as I said, it depends a little bit how this develops now. I'm definitely looking for that run down to that 114 attractor. Been talking about that for a bit. And as you know, the profile is usually right. We know where they're going to go. It's just not a straight line. As you can see, they were working themselves down there, and then we got the pop up here, and now we are right back down again. So Looks to me like they're going to try to take it down to 114. Now that's not a great sign. So I mean, you have then lowering the discount rates, the Fed's lowering rates, but the long-term yields are still going higher. So that's the not the good sign of confidence. So their idea was to drop get the long-term yields to come down a bit, so they can refinance mortgages. So mortgage rates comes down, so you can uh, refinance small business loans and so on and so forth. There's a lot of that stuff out there. A lot of millions of dollars of loans need to be refinanced at the higher rates, and that's going to be a drag. So they need to get those long-term yields down so that refinancing can happen without too much pain. Anyway, so watching this now, so they running to support here at the 26s. This could be a buying opportunity. I'm not going to be super aggressive on that buying opportunity. When it moves like this, you can see it almost like institutional selling on the way down. You just want to be careful about stepping in front of it in that freight train. I'm going to be a little standoffish on the bonds right now. See, I may look for a short reverse retest against the 31s, maybe up here against the 1502s or the 1504s. But it's just have to see what's going on with this one. If it's a institutional selling going on right now, they'll be taking it. They will be taking it all the way down to 114. Could be one of those down days on the bonds. All right. So that's the bond market. Watch that with some careful. If you don't get to it, definitely look for getting short against early strength on that guy, at least for now. The problem with that guy is if it starts moving higher, you don't want to be too aggressive stepping in front of it. And then you showed me I did that a couple of times, and you saw how easily I got caught in that stuff, and that just and once you caught, you just don't get out of it. So it's very difficult. Anyway, so back to the ES and NASDAQ, and let's see how this goes. All right, this is Friday, the 12th. Thank God it's Friday, and we have like a week and a half to Christmas. Yes, Yes, that's going to freak you out a little bit. So I'll leave it there for now, guys. So good trading, and I'll see you back at 11:30. All right, guys, later.